السلام. علی آپ پڑھتے ہیں دعائے کمال حدیث قصہ وغیرہ کچھ؟ اچھا دعائے کمال. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. اللہم انی اسألک برحمتک التی وسعت کل شیء وبقوتک التی قہرت بها کل شیء وقضى لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي يزاله كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل سم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن تزيني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع متضرع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعزم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عزم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي اللهم مولاي كم من قبيل سترته وكم من فاضي من البلاء قلت وكم من أسرار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أحلا له نشرته. اللهم أزم بلائي وأفرد بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقضت بي أغلالي وهبسني النفي بعض أعمالي وأخذتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بخيانتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يعجبنك دعائي سوء أملي وفعلي ولا تفزعني بخفي ما طلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودمام تفريطي وجهلتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا ولي في جميع الأمور عطوفا إلهي ومولاي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولما ترس فيه من تزيين عدوبي فكرني بما هوى وسده ولا ذلك القضاء وتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وضمني حكمك وبلاؤك وقضاتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا ناظما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا موزنا معترفا ولا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزنا توجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شدي والساق يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي وتراك معذبي من نارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انتوى له قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك وتقضه ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزي من ربيته أو تبد من أعطيته وتشرد من أعويته وتسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته وليت شيري يا من يا سيدي يا أبا إلهي ومولاي تسلط النار على وجه خرت لعظمتك ساجده وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك ماضية وعلى قلوب ارترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى زمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوار ساعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طاعة وشارت باستغفارك موزنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك أنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء مكروه قليل مقصود يسير بقاء قصير مدته فكيف يتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل الوقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن إليه لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف والذليل الحقير المسكين والمستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك واشكو بظلم من هذا الجواب كلي أليم العذاب فشدتي لطول البلاء ومدتي فلئن سيرتني في العقوبات ما أدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل البلاء وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر على النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء فوق وبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لازجن إليك بين أهل هذا جيج العاملين ولا صرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين إليك بكاء الفاقدين ولو نادينك إن كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية أعمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفدراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع في صوت عبدا مسلما سجن فيها بمخالفتي وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيتي وابس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرتي وهو يزج إليك زجيجا مؤملا لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك ورعفتك ورحمتك أم كيف تظلم النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يورقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفها أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه وأم كيف تزجر زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب وأم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت به المواحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أخطأ العلماء حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك وقضيت به من إخراج معانديك لجلد النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك قد تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجلى سماؤك قلت مبتدئا وتتولت بالإنعام متكرما فمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هدمتها وقمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريت أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل كبير أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته وغلنته وأخفيته اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجه وأنت وأخفيته وأزهرته وكل سيد أمرت بالإثبات الكرام الكاتمين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواري وكنت أنت رقيب علي من ورائهم ولا شاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأنت وفر عزي من كل خير أنزلت وإحسان فضلت وبر نشرت ورزق بسطت وخزم بين تغفره وخطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقيا من بيدي ناصيتي عليما بزرري ومنسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظيم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل الأوقات في الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من عليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جواري واشدد على العزيمة جواني وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرى عليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرى عليك في المبادرين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وادنو منك دنو المخلصين وخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فرد ومن كادني فقد وجلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك وطف علي بمجدك وافزني برحمتك وجل لساني بذكرك لهجة وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وقلني أسرتي واغفر لي زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وزمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تخطئ من فضلك رجائي واغفرني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من راس عليه الرجاء وصلاه البكاء يا سابق النعم يا دافع النقم يا نور المستوشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله.
محمد المعمى صلوات. بسم الله صلي على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعوذ بك بالله يا بتاه من الضعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأعطيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلالع كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسان قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمك. فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمك إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنك رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنك رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه والسلام عليك يا من اختاره الله وتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء. فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معكما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن وعلي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ برسول الله بطرف الكساء وعوم بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يعلمون ما يعلمهم ويحزنون ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم. واجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي ولحم وعجل وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية والأرض مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال العمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معكم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخطك بتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية والأرض مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال لي بأن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال عليهم السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليكم السلام إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فعدوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب القابة. الله صاحب کو بتا لگے چل 8:30 بجے کوئی بات نہیں کوئی بیٹھی ہے پر محمد علی محمد صلوات. گواہ ہے اس پر رب اکبر، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. گواہ ہے اس پر رب اکبر، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. نوح یونس کلیم و عیسیٰ، کیا ہے امت کا سب نے شکوہ. نوح یونس کلیم و عیسیٰ، کیا ہے امت کا سب نے شکوہ. اور جو شکر کرتا ہو زیر خنجر، وہ حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. گلے لگایا تھا شہر نے جس دم، طاہر نے بے ساختہ صدا دی. گلے لگایا تھا شہر نے جس دم، طاہر نے بے ساختہ صدا دی. جہاں میں گزرے ہے بندہ پرور، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. جہاں میں یوں تو ہے بندہ پرور، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. بنوں کے نیزہ بلند ہو کر جو رکھے جاری کلام اکبر. بنوں کے نیزہ بلند ہو کر جو رکھے جاری کلام اکبر. جہاں میں گزرے بڑے سخنور، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. جہاں میں گزرے بڑے سخنور، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. ذبیح کو باندھ کر لٹایا اور خود اپنی آنکھوں پہ باندھی پٹی. ذبیح کو باندھ کر لٹایا اور خود اپنی آنکھوں پہ باندھی پٹی. اور خلیل بولے چھری چلا کر، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. گواہ ہے اس پر رب اکبر، حسین جیسا کوئی نہیں ہے. درود بھیجیے گا محمد پہ.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، نوکر بنی ہے جس کی قضا، نوکر بنی ہے جس کی قضا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، اس پوری کائنات میں شبیر کے سوا گزرے بہت ولی و نبی عالی مرتبہ، اس پوری کائنات میں شبیر کے سوا گزرے بہت ولی و نبی عالی مرتبہ، لیکن کوئی یہ کہہ نہ سکا، لیکن کوئی یہ کہہ نہ سکا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، بھٹکا ہوا تھا راہ مودت تک آ گیا، سارے نارے سقر کو چھوڑ کے جنت تک آ گیا، جب حر پہ راز کھلنے لگا، جب حر پہ راز کھلنے لگا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، میرے لیے نبی نے جو سجدہ بڑھا دیا، خالق سے میں نے وعدہ اسی وقت کر لیا، میرے لیے نبی نے جو سجدہ بڑھا دیا، خالق سے میں نے وعدہ اسی وقت کر لیا، قرضہ اتار دوں گا تیرا، قرضہ اتار دوں گا تیرا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، دیدار کا تھا شوق جو خود کو مٹا دیا، مولا نے ہاتھ تھام کے بچے سے یہ کہا، دیدار کا تھا شوق جو خود کو مٹا دیا، مولا نے ہاتھ تھام کے بچے سے یہ کہا، اٹھ جا حبیب اٹھ کے بتا، اٹھ جا حبیب اٹھ کے بتا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، چمکے ہیں میرے نور سے ذرے زمین کے، تم کیا بتاؤ گے مجھے قانون دین کے، چمکے ہیں میرے نور سے ذرے زمین کے، تم کیا بتاؤ گے مجھے قانون دین کے، اسلام میرے گھر میں پلا، اسلام میرے گھر میں پلا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، ممکن نہیں یہ کام حد ممکنات سے، کرب و بلا کی خاک پہ غازی کے ہاتھ سے، ممکن نہیں ہے یہ کام حد ممکنات سے، ممکن نہیں ہے یہ کام حد ممکنات سے، کرب و بلا کے خاک پہ غازی کے ہاتھ سے میں نے لکھی کتاب وفا، میں نے لکھی کتاب وفا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں۔ ایک دن میں عکس فاتح خیبر بنا دیا، لوری میں کیا حسین نے اس کو سنا دیا۔ ایک دن میں عکس فاتح خیبر بنا دیا، لوری میں کیا حسین نے اس کو سنا دیا۔ اصغر بھی رن میں کہنے لگا، اصغر بھی رن میں کہنے لگا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں۔ تو ماتمی ہے میرا مجھے بھی ہے یہ خبر، لیکن میرے عمل پہ تکلم عمل بھی کر۔ تو ماتمی ہے میرا مجھے بھی ہے یہ خبر، لیکن میرے عمل پہ تکلم بھی عمل کر، پھر بخش دوں گا تیری خطا، پھر بخش دوں گا تیری خطا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں۔ نوکر بنی ہے جس کی قضا، نوکر بنی ہے جس کی قضا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں، مہمار عرض کرب و بلا، میں حسین ہوں، میں حسین ہوں۔ صلوات
اجازت بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ چونکہ شہزادہ علی اکبر علیہ السلام کی نزول کی شب ہے، تو اس لحاظ سے میں شہزادہ علی اکبر علیہ السلام کے شان میں 2-3 شعر پیش کروں گا، زیادہ زحمت نہیں دوں گا آپ کو۔ ایک اور درود پڑھیے گا، اللہم صلی علی۔ اس بات سے ظاہر ہے رتبہ علی اکبر کا، اس بات سے ظاہر ہے رتبہ علی اکبر کا، اس بات سے ظاہر ہے رتبہ علی اکبر کا، ہوتا ہے اذانوں میں چرچا علی اکبر کا، اس بات سے ظاہر ہے۔ اے حر تیری قسمت نے کیوں آج یہ قریب بٹ لی، اے حر تیری قسمت نے
کیوں آج یہ کروٹ لی، کیا صبح کو دیکھا تھا چہرہ علی اکبر کا، اس بات سے ظاہر ہے شبیر جھلاتے تھے عباس کے جھولے کو، شبیر جھلاتے تھے عباس کے جھولے کو، عباس جھلاتے ہیں جھولا علی اکبر کا، اس بات سے ظاہر ہے۔ اور پوچھا گیا یوسف سے جب حسن کے بارے میں، پوچھا گیا یوسف سے جب حسن کے بارے میں، ہنس کر کہا یہ تو ہے صدقہ علی اکبر کا، اس بات سے ظاہر ہے رتبہ علی اکبر کا۔ درود بر محمد و آل محمد، اللہم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔
صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ Please, brothers and sisters, recite a Surah Fatiha for the following marhumin, because this is a Esaal-e-Sawab Majlis. Recite a Surah Fatiha for Sayyida Shirazi Anwar Arif bint Sayyid Zainul Abidin Shirazi, Sayyida Shirazi Munawwar Majid bint Sayyid Zainul Abidin Shirazi, and Sayyid Muhammad Ali ibn Sayyid Shamsul Zuha, and the rest of the Shirazi family marhumin. Please recite Surah Fatiha for all of them. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu as-samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu as-samad, lam yalid. Allahumma ighfirhum warhamhum waskinhum bi jawar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi allazi la yablughu midhatuhu al-qailun wa la yusina ma'ahu al-'addun wa la yuaddi haqqahu al-mujtahidun, allazi la yudrikuhu buhdul himam wa la yunaluhu ghawsul fitan, allazi laysa li sifatihi haddun mahdudun wa la natun mawjudun wa la waqtun mahdudun wa la ajalun mamdud, fatara al-khalaiqa biqudratihi wa nasha riyaha birahmatihi ووتد بالسخر ميدان عرض، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعن على أدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو يحيي ويميت وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we're all aware, this is the holy month of Sha'ban, and in this holy month, you don't see any shahadat or you don't see any deaths of any of the Masumeen. From the beginning of the month to the end of the month, all you have is wiladat of Masumeen, of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So in this holy month, when someone passes away from the community, when our relatives pass away from the community, how should we commemorate their passing away? If on the day of Eid, a relative of ours passes away, how are we Islamically, from a Shia point of view, how are we supposed to commemorate their passing away? Because what's happened now is it doesn't matter if it's day of Shahadat, it doesn't matter if it's day of Wiladat. The Shia community, if someone passes away from their household, they just want to have a Majlis. There's no problem with that. Even in a Majlis, what's going to happen? The zikr of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is going to be recited. It's this zikr that becomes, or this zikr that turns into sawab for this marhum or marhuma that they get as reward. Every single word, but every single what? The hadith that gets spoken in the lectures, the du'as that get recited beforehand, everything that is spoken, they get or they go to this marhum or this marhuma in the form of sawab. How did they go in that form? When we have majalis, and after the majalis we have food, and this food, whoever has organized this food, they want the sawab of this food to go to who? The marhumin, their marhumin. How will this sawab go to the marhumin? Will it go to the marhumin in the form of food? No. The food is for us. But what goes to those marhumin? Our niyat, it's our intention that goes to the marhumin in the form of sawab. This food, it ends up being transformed. What do I mean? In this world too, we have an example. When you send money from here to a different country, what happens to that money? It automatically changes into the currency of that country. So this food, this zikr, these speeches, these du'as that we recite here, they automatically get transformed into the currency of the afterlife. So it doesn't matter if someone that we loved passes away on the wiladat of one of these masumeen. Don't think that it's not right for you to keep a jashan in their memory. Why? Because it's going to be what? The zikr of the Ahlul Bayt that is going to be recited, whether it is their jashan or it's not. So it's this zikr that gets transformed. It's this zikr that gets transformed. In this holy month, we have a community member that passed away. We have who was a mother to people in the community that passed away. She happened to pass away when? This holy month of Sha'ban. This holy month of Sha'ban. She passed away the month of Sha'ban. Passed away in the month of Rajab. Passed away in the month of Ramadan. These 3 months, I'm saying these 3 months. Why? The month of Rajab is whose month? The month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The month of Sha'ban is whose month? The month of Sha'ban is the month for the Holy Prophet. The month of Ramadan is for who? The month of Ramadan is for the Ummah. In all 3 of these months, the gates of mercy are open to whoever leaves this world in these 3 months. The gates of mercy. For example, there's some narrations that talk about specifically in the month of Rajab. There's some days in the month of Rajab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has opened His gates of mercy to such an extent that the questioning is lessened in the month of Rajab. The questioning is lessened. Why? Because that month belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we all know, he does what he wants to. He does what he wants to. So in that same vein, with that same thought process, this whole month we were commemorating the wiladat of Lady Zainab sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the wiladat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, the wiladat of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, the wiladat of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, the wiladat of Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam, and the wiladat of Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. You see that all of these personalities, and inshallah Monday we will be commemorating the wiladat of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. You see that all of these personalities, they have something in common, which is the event of Karbala. All of these personalities. And you might be thinking, how does Imam Zaman have something in common with the event of Karbala? When it comes to those personalities that I spoke about, from Lady Zainab sallallahu alaihi to Hazrat Ali Akbar, all of them were present in Karbala. What about Imam Zaman? No, Imam Zaman was not physically present. He wasn't physically present. But Ziyarat al-Nahiya Qudsiyya, what does Imam Zaman say? He says, "Oh dear grandfather, I was not physically present with you. Why? Because of time. And because of this time, and I was not there to protect you, until the day of judgment, I will cry tears of blood for you." I will cry tears of blood. So many Shias today, inshallah we'll get to our topic, so many Shias today, they have a problem with other Shias doing Zanjir Matam. I don't know why. When Imam Zaman himself, he's shedding blood for who? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Why do you have a problem if I shed blood for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam? When Imam Zaman himself, he's shedding blood for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Why is there a problem if I'm shedding blood for Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Why has that become a problem? But when it comes to Imam Zaman, inshallah, on Monday night, we will talk about Imam Zaman alayhi salam and what his role is before the rujat of all the other Imams. But when it comes to these personalities, I told you that they're all connected to Karbala. And whether you accept it or not, we as Shias, we can't deviate from the path of Karbala. Why? Because to us, Karbala wasn't just an event. To us, Karbala was never just an event. Karbala is a path that each and every single individual takes or can take to either achieve success or achieve or achieve damnation. Karbala isn't a latitude and a longitude. Karbala isn't the name of a place. Karbala is a path now. Karbala has become a path. You have two, that's it. You either walk the path of Abu Abdullah or you walk the path of Yazid la'natullah alayh. That's it. That's why Karbala has transcended being just a place now. Karbala has transformed into something totally different. And that's what people need to understand. When you hold that type of ideology within you, then you go to your ziyarat for Imam Hussein, 15 Sha'ban. For 15 Sha'ban, one of the most recommended acts to do for 15 Sha'ban is the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And there's a khas ziyarat for 15 of Sha'ban. Why is that? Why is that when we talk about Ghadir, ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Why is it that when we talk about Eid al-Azha, ziyarat Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Why is it that when we talk about Eid al-Fitr, ziyarat Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Why is it that when we talk about all of these other nights, for example, Laylatul Qadr, ziyarat Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the night of 15th Sha'ban, ziyarat Imam Hussein alayhi salam? All of these important nights, in all of them, they all have one thing in common. You have different types of amals, different types of prayers, different du'as to read in all of those nights. But they all have one thing in common. And that is what? Ziyarat Imam Hussein. Why do all of these nights have Ziyarat Imam Hussein in common? Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never wants you to forget what Aba Abdullah al-Hussein did. It doesn't matter if there's a birth in your home and it's the shahadat of one of these masumeen, you forego your happiness for the sorrow of the masumeen. It doesn't matter if there's a death in your family, but if it's the wiladat of one of these masumeen, you forego your sorrowness for the happiness of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. On the day of Eid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to remember Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. On the day of Eid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to remember. So then why wouldn't we remember Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam when there's someone that's passed away in our own life? Why wouldn't we remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam when there's someone that's born in the family? This is the aqeedah that every single Shia should have. And what I want to talk about today, inshallah, we have some personalities to talk about, and we also have some events to talk about. For example, I had done my lecture series on what happens after death. And one of the places that we all have to go through is Pul Sirat, the bridge of Sirat. And there are some personalities. One of the people that doesn't go through anything that happens in the afterlife, for example, they don't go through any type of questioning, they don't go through any type of squeezing in the grave, they don't go through any of that. They go straight to Jannat. One of them is a shaheed. One of them is a shaheed. Shaheed in what sense we'll get to. One of them, someone who doesn't have to go through the squeezing of the grave, for example. Amir al-Mu'mineen says anyone who recites Surah An-Nisa every Friday, they will not go through the squeezing of the grave. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says anyone that recites Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says anyone that recites Salatul Layl does not have to go through squeezing of the grave. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says anyone that does Saleh Rahim will not have to be afraid when they're being put in the grave. So what about those people that have to go through Pul Sirat, the bridge of Sirat? What is required of us to go through that? And I said that there's some groups of people that don't even go through that. And one of those is Shuhada. And one of the personalities that I'm going to speak about tonight is Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam. Because two personalities, when we talk about Karbala, there are few personalities that we don't have a lot of information on. Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam, Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam, Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. These personalities we don't have a lot of information on. Why is that? Hazrat Qasim was how old when he was shaheed? 13 maximum. 13 years old. What biography can you make of a 13-year-old? Hazrat Al-Yasghar was 6 months old. What biography? 6 months. As soon as he was born, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam left on his journey. What biography can you break or can you make of a 6-month-old? Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, he was in his 30s. But even though he was in his 30s, there were personalities that overshadowed him so much that he didn't have a problem staying in their shadows. In the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen overshadowed. In the time of Imam Hassan overshadowed. In the time of Imam Hussein overshadowed him. And he didn't have a problem staying in their shadows. That's why we don't have a lot of information. But the information that we do have, and from the information that we do have about them, and connecting that information to verses of the Quran, you can conclude yourself what a great trial that they went through. The trial that they went through, even the prophets were not able to go through those trials. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not even put the prophets through all those trials. But when it comes to this Pul Sirat, Amir al-Mu'mineen says in his Nahj Balagha, he says a few things about death itself. One of the things he says is a letter that he writes. And in that letter to his offspring, and he says, "Oh my child, know that you have been created for the next world. You haven't been created for this world. Know that you have been created for destruction in this world, meaning for death in this world. You have not been created to live forever in this world. You're in a place, this world is a place which does not belong to you. This world is a house for your making. You are supposed to prepare yourself for the everlasting life. And in this world, you are being chased by death constantly, and you're trying to run away from it, but you will never be able to escape it. Why? Because surely there will come a day when this death will overtake you. Amir al-Mu'minin in his letter number 31, to whom? His children. And he says what? He says, so in this world, be on guard against it unless you let it overtake you. When an individual lets this world overtake them, then what happens? They end up forgetting about the next world, and all they're worried about and all they care about is only and only this world. That's all they care about. So when Amir al-Mu'minin, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah, when Amir al-Mu'minin says this, and you see that from Hazrat Adam alayhi salam all the way to the last prophet, every single prophet was tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were all tested in different ways. There were only a handful of prophets that were given this world. That was it. When I say this world, I mean that they were given kingdom, or they were given rulership in this world. That was it. Only a handful. But everyone else, they were fighting against whatever king, whatever ideology was prevalent in society at that time. There wasn't a prophet who ever did not fight against polytheism, for example. And I've done lectures, all of the prophets, or all of the ummah of the previous prophets. We've heard so many times that they were killed or they were wiped out. Why? Because they were kuffar. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not care if someone believes in Him or they don't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too great for that. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala care whether someone believes in Him or not? The people of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, were they wiped out because they didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, that's not the case. The people of Hazrat Lut, were they wiped out because they didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, that's not the case. The people of Hazrat Salih alayhi salam, were they wiped out because they didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, that's not the case. Why? Because the people of Hazrat Nuh, over 900 years they did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now after 900 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing them. Why don't you believe in me? No. When you look at this history of all of those people, there was one thing that they kept doing, all of them. Not believing is one thing, but spreading corruption on earth is something different. Not believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one thing, but spreading corruption on earth is something different. What do I mean? 2 + 2 = 4. If in school they start teaching 2 + 2 = 5, what is going to happen to the society? What is going to happen? The society is going to be corrupted. They don't even have basic understanding. When the teachers themselves are hiding the truth, what's going to happen to the society? What were the parents doing in the time of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam to the children? They were not only telling them, hey, this Hazrat Nuh is crazy, don't believe what he says. No. They themselves, they saw when Hazrat Nuh was making the ark, they saw that the shaves from the tree, they're turning into gold. They saw that the shaves from the tree, they're turning into silver. Yet they're picking it up, they're putting it in their pockets, yet they're still not believing in Hazrat Nuh. Yet they're still telling their kids, When you alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. When you get older and you alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. When you get older and you survive after us, we want you to hit him with rocks the same way you're doing it right now. What had Hazrat Nuh done? All he did was try to invite them. What did the people do? They not only said that Hazrat Nuh was crazy, but they also spreaded corruption. How? Attacking Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. How? Attacking the people that believed in Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. It's after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, now the punishment is going to come. After what? After they were attacking Hazrat Nuh and his people. When you come to the story of Hazrat Saleh was warning them. They asked for a camel to come from the mountain. The camel came. They saw the camel come from the mountain, yet they still did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them was because they didn't believe in Him, He should have punished them as soon as the camel came out and they stopped believing. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes them when? When they spread corruption on earth. And what was that corruption? When they slaughtered that camel for absolutely no reason at all. They were benefiting from that camel. They were benefiting from the camel. Yet they slaughtered it. Why? Why does it get a day to itself to feed and to drink water? Hazrat Nuh's people, corruption. Hazrat Saleh's people, corruption. When you come to, for example, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, how many times did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warn the people of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to destroy communities just because they did not believe in His oneness, He would have destroyed the people of Hazrat Musa. Why? Because they believed in Him and then they became mushrik. And then they believed in Him again and then they become mushrik. The people that played the most amount of games with the Prophet were the people of Hazrat Musa. Believing in Him, leaving Him, believing in Him, leaving Him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not punish them because they don't believe in Him. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes them when? When they were spreading corruption. Spreading corruption. Not believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you see, this ummah, the ummah of the Holy Prophet, how is it today? Is it where it was 1400 years ago? Is it where it was 800 years ago? When this ummah wasn't spreading corruption, it was known as the golden age of Islam. When the Christians would only take a bath once a month, and those Christians that were to be known as kings, those Christians that were known as queens, the affluent Christians, when they would take a bath once a month, it was Islam that was teaching the world that you need to clean yourself properly every single day. Yet now, it's the total opposite. Is that itself not a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where Islam was up here, now it's down here? What had happened? It was the amal of each and every single one of the individuals. Amal of each and every single Muslim. These amal that we do, we take with ourselves. And I already said, the bad deeds that you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Amir al-Mu'mineen, He says, death itself. Death is a punishment for a non-believer. Death is something for a non-believer to be sad about. But for a moment, death is success. For a moment, death is success. Why? Because if they were truly a mu'min, there's nothing for them to fear. If they were a mu'min, there's nothing for them to fear. But if they were a munafiq, if they were a kafir, then these are the people that have to fear death. Why? Because as soon as this soul starts getting taken out, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Alaykum salam. As soon as this soul starts getting taken out, the angel of death considers your deeds when he's taking out this soul. The angel of death considers your deeds. If your deeds are good and justified, then the angel of death, he appears in the form of a light. And he says to this mu'min, he says to this human being, you have nothing to fear. I'm here to take you to your rightful place. And if this person, if their evil deeds have overtaken their good deeds, then this angel of death and whoever he has put in command of taking out the souls, these angels, they come in the form of fire-breathing angels. And then they start taking out the soul. And for a munafiq and for a kafir, this taking out the soul is not the same as for a mu'min. For a mu'min, taking out the soul becomes easy for them. For a kafir, the taking out the soul becomes painful, it becomes torture for them. 1, 2, when put in the grave, for a mu'min, that squeezing in the grave is what? Is beneficial for them. Why? Taking out the soul for a munafiq and for a mu'min, the action is the same, but the interpretation for both of them is different. The squeezing in the grave, it's going to happen to a mu'min and to a munafiq or a kafir. The action is the same, but the interpretation from the Ahlul Bayt is different. The questioning in the grave, the action is the same, but the questioning for the mu'min, the interpretation is different for a mu'min and for a kafir. Pul Sirat, the action is the same. The number of years that are going to be spent is the same. But the interpretation is different for a mu'min and a kafir. How is it that the action is the same, but the interpretation is different for all of these? What causes the interpretation to be different? It's the amal that we carry with us, one. And even greater than that is the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib that we carry with us. The wilayat that we carry with us. The more wilayat that we carry, the easier our afterlife becomes. The easier. Pul Sirat, the narration said that you will not even be able to see your toe. On the bridge of Sirat, an individual is not even able to see their toe in front of them. But there will come a light that will shine, and it will allow the person or this individual to see as far as the eye can see. And when they were asked, what is that light? They said, the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen that we carry, that is what enlightens our path. Where? On the bridge. On this bridge. And I had said that we were going to talk about Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam. There's some individuals, brothers and sisters, that they live such a short lifespan on this earth, but they had such an impact in the world that 1400 years after they left this world, the world still remembers them. The world still remembers them. There's an Urdu poet from India. When he was reciting the poetry for Hazrat Ali Akbar, he says one thing. He says for Hazrat Ali Akbar that the world has constantly changed and the world has gotten older. 1400 years, the world has gotten older, but Ali Akbar, you're still Jawan. You're still Jawan, you're still young. This world has gotten older, but Ali Akbar, you're still young. And when you look at these young personalities that sacrificed themselves in Karbala, you see why is it that the world still remembers them. Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam, 13 years old. The light or the star of the second Noor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 13 years old. When Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he passed away, Hazrat Qasim was how old? You all know? He was 2 or 3 years old maximum. That was it. If he was martyred at the age of 13, that means that it was Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam who took care of him for almost 10, 11 years. It was Abu al-Fazl Abbas alayhi salam who was teaching him how to fight. From when? From as young or as 5, 6-year-old when he is able to carry sticks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and I had said something that these personalities, they were tested in such a way that no other prophet was ever tested. These personalities, I'm going to prove that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran that we will try you. We will try you certainly with fear of death. We will try you with hunger. And we will try you with the loss of property and the loss of your lives. And it's good news for the people that are patient. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوءِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ. We will try you, most certainly. We will try you with somewhat of fear of hunger, fear of loss of property, fear of loss of lives, and fear of loss of food. And we give good news to those who wait patiently. We're Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 155. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries people with how many things? Fear of life. Fear of loss of property. Fear of hunger. Fear of loss of food. 4 fears. In this one verse, there are 4 fears that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He tries an individual with. In the history of Islam, which individuals were tried with these 4 fears at one and the same time? At one and the same time. You come to the events of Karbala, you see that all of those individuals in Karbala were tried the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, at one and the same time. At one and the same time. Fear of life? Was it fear of life? We'll get to that. Why? Because there's something Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam, he says that every youngster or every Shia mu'min should understand perfectly clear. When Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam, he asked him on the night of the 10th, Ya Qasim, how do you see death? Hazrat Qasim, he says, oh uncle dear, I see death to be sweeter than honey. I see death to be sweeter than honey itself. How many of us could actually say that about death? As soon as there's a car accident or as soon as a car, it crosses us, we start reciting everything that we know from the Mafati just so our life can be saved. Just so our life can be saved. Hazrat Qasim, he's in the battlefield, and when he's asked, how do you find death? He says, oh my uncle, I see death to be sweeter than honey itself. Sweeter than honey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum naran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh you who believe, save yourselves and save your families from a fire whose fuel is men and shaitan. Save yourselves and save. This is a dars for everyone that's a parent. Everyone that's a parent. Save yourselves and save your families from the fire, which is a fuel, or which has fuel of Satan's and humans. The fuel for that fire in the last day will be what? Shayateen and humans. The fuel of hellfire is humans. And the only way, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah, the only way to save families from the fire is through an Islamic upbringing. An upbringing where everyone understands, not just one person, no. Where everyone practices exactly what they're preaching. If the parents say, let's go to the Majlis, to the children, they come inside and sit so their kids can come and sit. If the mothers say you need to wear your hijab, they themselves practice hijab first, and then they tell the youngsters to practice their hijab. Why? Because this is the problem that's happening in this society. The youngsters, they're seeing the hypocrisy in the parents, and they're leaving religion. They're leaving religion. And what does Imam Sadiq alayhi salam say? Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, the best way, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The best way to guide someone is through action. The best way to guide someone is through action, not words, actions. And you see that it was Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he guided Hazrat Qasim through words? No, through action. Through action. What do I mean? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, he knew that Hazrat Qasim's name was on the list of shuhada that were to be martyred on the sands of Karbala. Hazrat Qasim was how old? 13. Imam Hussein alayhi salam took his youngest son, his own youngest son, to Karbala, who was al-Asghar at only 6 months old. One of the dars, one of the lessons is what? Even though Hazrat Qasim, O Qasim, even though you're 13, this sacrifice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm sacrificing my 6-month-old. I will sacrifice my 6-month-old. My brother Hassan, he's going to sacrifice his 12-year-old, his 13-year-old. I will sacrifice my 6-month-old for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Hazrat Qasim does not feel that he's the youngest to be sacrificed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a soul more than it can take. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a soul more than it can take. And then at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I will try people with what? With fear of death. I will try people with fear of hunger. I will try people with fear of loss of property and fear of loss of food. Fear of loss of food. From Prophet Adam alayhi salam to Prophet Khatam alayhi salam, name me one prophet that went through each and every single one of those trials at one and the same time. One prophet that went through each and every single one of those trials at one and the same time. Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, he went through what? Fear of loss of his son. But what about property? At the same time, did he go through loss of property? No. Did he go through loss of life? No. Did he go through loss of food? No, he didn't. He didn't. You come to Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, In the deluge, in the flood of Hazrat Nuh, you had loss of his son. Was there loss of food? No. Was there loss of property? No. What was there then? Just that. When you come to Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, he punches one of the soldiers of Fir'aun and he runs away. When he runs away, at one and the same time, was Hazrat Musa alayhi salam tested with all of these trials at one and the same time? No. When he killed someone, he ran away. Why? Because fear for his life. But was there fear for wealth? No. Was there fear for food? No. There wasn't. It was only and only in Karbala that you have fear of life, fear of food being taken away, fear of what? Fear of water, these four fears that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in this verse, it's only and only in Karbala that this applies to. So what does that tell you? These personalities that were in Karbala, that went through these trials at one and the same time, the nafs that they had was greater than the nafs of those prophets. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He does not try a soul more than it can burden. So if Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was not burdened with these four trials at the same time, that means that his soul could not take it. If Hazrat Musa alayhi salam could not take these trials at one and the same time, that means that his soul was not able to take that. If Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was not able to go through these trials at one and the same time, that means that his soul was not able to take it. If Hazrat Musa alayhi salam was not able to take these trials at one and the same time, that's what? That means that his soul was not able to take it. But you look at Hazrat Qasim, at the age of 13, he's able to take all four of these trials at one and the same time that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam could not take. That Hazrat Musa alayhi salam could not take. That Hazrat Isa alayhi salam could not take. That Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam could not take. All of these trials at one and the same time. So what do we see in Karbala, brothers and sisters? Like I said in the beginning, Karbala is not an event anymore. Karbala is a path that each and every single one of us needs to try and walk on. And it's this path that leads to salvation. Why? Because it's this path that leads to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And as we all know, it's Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He is like the ark of Hazrat Nuh. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are like the ark of Hazrat Nuh. Whoever attaches themselves to them, they're saved. And it was that ark itself, Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Up until Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, all the prophets, they were only given 5 names. That was it. They were only given 5 names. And it was through these 5 names that they were able to perform the miracles that they did. It was through these 5 names that they were able to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever they wanted. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, Al-Burhan fi Tafsir Quran, said Hashim Bahrani, he says that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was the first prophet who was given all of the names of the Masumeen. And when he was given all of those names of the Masumeen, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him an imam of men. And what kind of imamat was this? Is this the same imamat that the 12 imams have? Or no, is there imamat higher than Hazrat Ibrahim's imamat? Inshallah, that's a different topic when we talk about imamat itself. But Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's being given imamat after reciting the names of these 12 imams. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, he's being given prophet and he's able to do miracles after reciting the names of only those 5 holy personalities. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, he's being given prophethood after reciting the names of these 12 personalities. After Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, the prophets, they were given the names of all 12 of those personalities. But Hazrat Ibrahim was the first to recite all of them. And when you come to Karbala, this same Hussein, at the age of 3, 4, the Holy Prophet, he's sitting, and he has Imam Hassan on one shoulder, and he has Imam Hussein on the other shoulder. And he carries them, and he comes to Hazrat Zahra's house. When he comes to Hazrat Zahra's house, he puts them down, and they start wrestling. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, they start walking towards each other, and they start wrestling. And when they start wrestling, Imam Hassan, maybe 4 years old, Imam Hussein, 3 years old. When they start wrestling, the Holy Prophet, he says, Ya Hassan, come, Ya Hassan. Ya Hassan. You know, when two kids, they start wrestling, the father, if he wants to encourage one of them, what does he say? You know, come on, you can do this, right? The Holy Prophet, he says that to Imam Hassan. When he says this to Imam Hassan, Lady Zahra, she's overhearing everything, and she says, Ya Rasulullah, are you saying Ya Hassan because you're trying to say that the elder will overtake the younger? And the Holy Prophet, he says, Ya Zahra, no, I'm not saying it because of that. It's because Jibreel and Mikael are on the other side, they're saying Ya Hussein. Jibreel and Mikael, they're on the other side saying Ya Hussein, and I'm over here saying Ya Hassan. And as soon as I say Ya Hassan, they're on that side saying Ya Hussein. And when I said Ya Hassan, come Ya Hassan, Imam Hassan alayhi salam was almost about to lift Imam Hussein alayhi salam and overtake him. But as soon as Jibreel and Mikael said Ya Hussein, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he was able to get his power, and they were both equal in power. And the Holy Prophet himself, he says, Ya Zahra, I swear. How old are Imam Hassan? How old are Imam Hussein? 4 and 3. The Holy Prophet, he says, Ya Zahra, I swear, if these two children, if they wanted to, the way they were wrestling, if they wanted to, they could have turned over the whole earth if they wanted to. The power that they had, with the power that they have at the age of 4 and 3. The Holy Prophet says that if they wanted to, they could completely overturn the earth using their power at the age of 4 and 3. Now, when scholars tell you from the minbar that Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam did not use his power in Karbala, you should know that he truly did not use his power in Karbala. Because if he wanted to, at the age of 3, he could have overturned the earth. At the age of 54, he could have overturned the whole universe. The whole universe. Tonight, not only do we commemorate the wiladat of Hazrat Qasim, we're commemorating the wiladat of Hazrat Ali Akbar. But at the same time, we're remembering a mother of the community that had passed away. What can we say about this mother, or what can we say to this mother of the community that passed away? What can we say to the family other than look at the night that we were remembering this beloved woman? We were remembering her when the son of Imam Hassan al-Islam came down to this world. We are remembering her when the mirror image of Rasulullah came down to this world. Would she not be happy that we are remembering her today, when the whole universe is remembering who this woman, her whole life said, Ya Hussein to? when Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, he was leaving Medina, the people of Medina, they gather around and they say, Mawla, are you leaving because we've done something to offend you? And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says, no, I'm not leaving because you've done anything to offend me. I'm leaving, why? Because it's become necessary for me to leave. I'm leaving, why? Because I have to leave. When he says this, the people of Medina, they gather around and they say, Yabna Rasulullah, if you're going to leave and you're content and your heart is set on leaving, can you please do us one favor? And he says, what is it? He says, can you leave back Ali al-Akbar so we can look at him? Because whenever we look at him, we remember Rasulullah. Can you leave Ali al-Akbar here? Why? Because he is the mirror image of Rasulullah. And we want to look at him so we can remember the time Rasulullah was here. Who are these people? If these people are claiming that he is the mirror image of Rasulullah, that means that they themselves have seen Rasulullah. If they themselves have seen Rasulullah, that means that they are ashab of Rasulullah. They are ashab of Rasulullah. Look at these ashab. They know Imam Hussein alayhi salam has told them the reason that he's going, yet they don't join. And they say, Yabna Rasulullah, please leave your son. Why? Because he's the mirror image of Rasulullah. There was a day, there were some Christians that came to meet Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When they meet Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Hazrat Ali Akbar, he was with him. And these Christians, they ask, who is this that's with you? And Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he says that this is my son. His name is Ali al-Akbar. He says, they say to him, is he a prophet? And Abu Abdullah al-Hussein said, no, he's not a prophet. But he looks exactly like the final prophet. He looks exactly like the final prophet. This same Ali al-Akbar, when he stands to give that azan on the 10th of Muharram, what was it that the women of the camp were saying? What was it that the women? Now we are seeing our grandfather Rasulullah give azan. It's this Ali al-Akbar. That azan that he gave 1400 years ago, it's because of that 1400 years later, azan is still being recited in the masajid today. Imam Zain al-Abidin, when he was in Syria and the azan was happening, him reminding the muazzin who Rasulullah is and what his relationship to Rasulullah is the reason why azan is happening today in these masajid. It's the reason. Brothers, sisters, these personalities, especially Ali al-Akbar, especially Hazrat Qasim, it's a mother that has passed away. This is Esaal-e-Sawab for a mother that passed away. This mother, when she was alive, I'm certain she would be thinking about how she would feel if her children were missing for a couple of hours. Just like every mother, when a child goes missing for an hour or two, the mother, she gets upset, she gets worried, and she starts to cry. And this same mother, when she's looking at those mothers in Karbala, I'm sure she was saying salam to those mothers that were sending their kids to be sacrificed for the sake of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. For the sake of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of these marhumeen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of Sayyid Shirazi Anwar Arif, the daughter of Sayyid Zainul Abidin Shirazi. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of Sayyid Shirazi Manawar Majid, the daughter of Sayyid Zainul Abidin Shirazi. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of Sayyid Muhammad Ali, the son of Sayyid Shams al-Zuha. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every single word in this mahfil, every single word in this lecture, every single word in this majlis, every breath that was taken in this gathering, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send the sawab of all of this to these marhumeen. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive their sins. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of all of our marhumeen, to forgive the sins of all of those marhumeen whose names are on the wall in the back. Please, brothers, sisters, recite Surah Fatiha first and foremost for Sayyid Shirazi Anwar Arif, bint Sayyid Zainul Abidin Shirazi, Sayyid Shirazi Manawar Majid, bint Sayyid Zainul Abidin Shirazi, and Sayyid Muhammad Ali ibn Sayyid Shams al-Zuha, and the Shirazi family. Please recite Surah Fatiha for all of their marhumeen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam Allahumma ighfirhum warhamhum waskunhum min jawar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Before you all leave, please just a reminder, Monday night there's going to be 15 Sha'ban Amal here, and the first Amal that you all need to do at home is ghusl for that night. And inshallah, the main Amal, we will do it here, and then the other Amal that can be done at home, for example, the prayers that are to be recited, you all can do them at home, or if you want, you can do them here. But the main amals that need to be done, they will be done here, and I will lead for those amals, and that will be, inshallah, Monday night, this coming Monday night. And the first amal that you all need to do at home is ghusl. That's it. Ghusl is the first amal, and then afterwards, we will have our program, inshallah. What time? 8 o'clock, inshallah, the program will start. And then until the amals are finished, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا حجة الله، السلام عليك يا رحمة للعالمين، السلام عليك يا باعث الهدى ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا صوب الدين، السلام عليك يا علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام، السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا أبا محمد حسن مجتبى عليه السلام. زيارة وارث. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام علیک وارث موسیٰ کلیم اللہ، السلام علیک وارث عیسیٰ روح اللہ، السلام علیک وارث محمد حبیب اللہ، السلام علیک وارث علی امیر المومنین ولی اللہ، السلام علیک ابن محمد المصطفیٰ، السلام علیک ابن علی المرتضیٰ، السلام علیک ابن فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیک ابن خدیجۃ الکبریٰ، السلام علیک اسرار اللہ وابن سارہ والوتر الموتور، اشہد انک قد اقمت الصلاۃ وآتیت الزکاۃ وامرت بالمعروف ونہیت عن المنکر واطعت اللہ ورسولہ حتی اتاک الیقین، فلان اللہ امة قتلتک ولان اللہ امة ظلمتک ولان اللہ امة سامعت بذلک فرضیت بہ یا مولا یا ابا عبداللہ، اشہد انک کنت نورا فی الاسلاب الشامخ والارحام المطہرہ، لم تنجسک الجاہلیت وانجاسها ولم تلبسک من مظلمات ثيابها، واشہد انک من دائم الدین وارکان المؤمنین، واشہد انک الامام البر التقی الرضی الزکی الہادی المہدی، واشہد ان الائمۃ من ولدک کلمۃ التقوی وعلام الہدی والعروۃ الوثقی والحجۃ علی اہل دنیا، واشہد اللہ وملائکتہ وانبیاءہ ورسولہ انی بکم مؤمن وبیابکم موقن بشرائع دینی وخواتیم عملی وقلبی لقلبکم سلم وامری لامرکم متبع، صلوات اللہ علیکم وعلی ارواحکم وعلی اجسادکم وعلی اجسامکم وعلی شاہدکم وعلی غائبکم وعلی ظاہرکم وعلی باطنکم۔ زیارت مولا عباس علیہ السلام۔ السلام علیکم ابن امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم ایھا العبد الصالح مطیع للہ ورسولہ، واشہد انک قد جہدت ونصحت وصبرت حتی اتاک الیقین، لعن اللہ الظالمین لکم من الاولین والآخرین والحاقہم بدرجک الجحیم۔ زیارت شہزاد علی اکبر علیہ السلام، شہزاد علی اصغر علیہ السلام۔ السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم ابن نبی اللہ، السلام علیکم ابن امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم ابن الحسین الشہید، السلام علیکم ایھا الشہید وابن الشہید، السلام علیکم ایھا المظلوم وابن المظلوم، لعن اللہ امة قتلتک ولعن اللہ امة ظلمتک ولعن اللہ امة سامعت بذلک فرضیت بہ۔ زیارت شہداء کربلا علیہ السلام۔ السلام علیکم یا اولیاء اللہ و احبہ، السلام علیکم یا اصفیاء اللہ و عابدہ، السلام علیکم یا انصار دین اللہ، السلام علیکم یا انصار رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا انصار امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم یا انصار فاطمۃ سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیکم یا انصار ابی محمد الحسن بن علی الولی الناس، السلام علیکم یا انصار ابی عبداللہ بابی انتم و امی طبتم وطابت الارض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظیما، فیا لیتنی کنت معکم فافوز معکم۔ السلام علیکم، السلام علی الحسین وعلی علی ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین، السلام علیکم محمد ابن علی علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم جعفر ابن محمد علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم موسیٰ ابن جعفر علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم علی ابن موسیٰ علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم یا مولانا غریب الغرباء، السلام علیکم معین الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام علیکم شمس الشموس انیس النفوس والمدفون بارض الطوس، السلام علیکم محمد ابن علی علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم علی ابن محمد علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم حسن ابن علی علیہ السلام، السلام علیکم یا مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، اللمان 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 من فتنة الزمان، السلام علیکم یا خلیفۃ الرحمن، السلام علیکم یا شریک القرآن، السلام علیکم یا امام الانس والجان، اجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسال اللہ تعالی مخرجک وظہورک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد، اللہم کل ولیک الحجت ابن الحسن صلواتک علیہ وعلی آبائہ فی هذه الساعة وفی کل ساعة ولیا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودلیلا وعینا حتی تسکنہ ارضک طوعا وتمتعہ فیہا طویلا برحمتک یا ارحم الراحمین۔ اللہم صلی علی